The courtroom floated above the gas giant of Velzar, a translucent sphere anchored by invisible gravity tech. Inside, the Galactic Council's delegates shimmered in their ceremonial projections, dozens of species represented as holograms of light and posture. But only one flesh-and-blood figure stood at the center, Commander Elias Cade. A bead of sweat slid down his temple as he stood before the tribunal of alien empires. He didn't wipe it. Let them see it. Let them know humans still sweat in the face of injustice, and still stand tall. You were warned, hissed the voice of Delegate Cyrex from the Alari Dominion, its form a shifting cascade of liquid metal. Interference in the Zephyri sector was a violation of Interstellar Code 17C. Earth's colonies knew this. Cade didn't flinch. His voice was low, controlled. The Zephyri were starving. Your council voted to observe while children died. We didn't interfere. We delivered food. That food, snapped Councillor Rinvale, a crystalline being pulsing red, was encoded with human nanodust. Propaganda carriers. Mind-altering tech. That's a lie, Cade growled, the edges of his fists tightening. Nanodust is banned. You know damn well it was a basic protein replicator matrix. We followed every treaty. You're calling mercy treason now? Silence. And then the verdict fell. Earth is hereby sanctioned. All Terran colonies will be blockaded. Travel suspended. Communication severed. Your species is exiled from the Galactic Accord, indefinitely. Cade's face hardened. His mind flashed with images. Mars domes going dark, children on Europa wondering why the sky no longer sang, a mother clutching a ration card on Titan, weeping as it dissolved into useless ink. Then we're done talking. He turned, coat swaying behind him, boots thudding against the gleaming floor. You don't exile humanity, he said over his shoulder. You wake it up. 2 days later, deep in the asteroid shadows of Sol's outer rim, the hidden Terran flagship, Obsidian Wraith rose from its slumber. A warship that didn't exist on any chart. Sleek, black, and hungry. Inside its dim-lit bridge, the air thrummed with quiet tension. Red-tinted screens flickered with movement. Artificial gravity hummed low. Kate stepped into the command pit like a storm entering still water. Status? He asked. Lieutenant Sarai Voss spun in her chair. Her shaved head reflected console light, cybernetic eyes flicking through telemetry. 17 colony freighters rerouted to fallback coordinates. 3 intercepted by Council enforcement drones. We lost contact with Ganymede base. And? She hesitated. The blockade around Earth just turned hot. Cade didn't swear. He didn't blink. He leaned on the console, jaw tight. They're coming to make an example of us, he muttered. From behind, a voice rose, Captain Merrick Thorne, an older officer whose once regal blue uniform had faded into a shadow of its former glory. We're scattered, Elias. Half the colonies are unarmed. If we fight, it'll be slaughter. We don't fight to win, Cade said. Not yet. Thorne narrowed his eyes. Then why? To remind them, Cade whispered. What happens when humanity snaps? At midnight on Earth, where clouds choke the sky and city lights barely pierce the smog, an unmarked shuttle touched down on the shattered remains of old Geneva. The original UN complex had been abandoned after the corporate unions fractured the Terran government. But tonight, under the bones of the past, a meeting was called. Elias entered a room lit only by a projection in the air, a rotating symbol, Earth, cracked in half but still burning bright. Around the long tables sat ghosts, former leaders, engineers, dissidents, smugglers. People erased from the official registry of the Accord. A woman stood. Dr. Liara Meng, former AI ethicist for the Council's Neuro-Research Wing. Banished for exposing the use of human dream data in alien weapons testing. They'll strike the moons next, she said. Then the Mars cradles. They're not trying to isolate us. They want to erase us. And we won't let them, Cade replied. I need the ARC protocols. I need every black site drone we buried under Europa's ice. I need what you built, and what they feared. You'll ignite a war. They already lit the match. A murmur ran through the room. Then Leora nodded. It's all buried under one command code. Yours. She handed him a black data shard. Its surface pulsed with crimson veins like it was alive. Don't make me regret this. Cade stared at it. Then slid it into his sleeve. You won't. In the dark above Earth's exosphere, the blockade fleet hovered, council destroyers shaped like metallic reefs, oozing energy, encircling the planet like vultures. But one ship drifted too close to orbit. Scythe-class frigate, Seraphim's Blade. Its captain blinked in confusion as his scanners froze. Commander? We're reading phantom signatures. All around us. 30, no, 50 bogies. They're moving in formation, impossible speeds. Then static. Then silence. One by one, council vessels began to blink off radar. No explosions. No traces. Just absence. Back aboard Obsidian Wraith, Sarai turned to Cade. Phase 1 complete. They're spooked. Sensors show half their fleet repositioning. Cade nodded. Good. Let them be afraid. He stood alone at the viewport, watching stars drift like memories. For too long, he whispered. We begged for a seat at their table. Tried to prove we were civilized. Worthy. Now we remind them, we built our own fire. Behind him, engines surged. War had not yet begun. But the silence had broken. And humanity had spoken. The moons of Jupiter flickered like warning lights as the first council retaliation arrived. 10 warships breached Sol's outer defense grid, silent, unannounced, and merciless. On Callisto, the orbital relay station didn't even get a distress signal out. From the Obsidian Wraith's command deck, the footage replayed in muted horror, a flash, then silence. Just ash drifting through blackness. 76 technicians. Civilians. Sarai muttered, voice flat, eyes locked on the aftermath. They didn't hesitate. Captain Thorne growled, fists clenched behind his back. This isn't a sanction. It's extermination. Commander Cade stood like stone. He didn't blink. Didn't sigh. He pointed at the central display. Run every contingency. I want ghost fleets activated. Start Operation Echo Burn. And initiate the Forge. Sarai turned sharply. The Forge? That's a last resort. It was, Cade replied. Now it's the plan. In the hidden vault beneath the Martian basin, deep in the extinct lava tubes of Olympus Mons, ancient machines stirred. Red dust vibrated as doors unseen for decades cracked open. Inside, metal giants slept in rows, humanoid exoframes the size of dropships. Each bore the mark of Earth's forgotten wars, a stylized phoenix stitched with barbed wire. The Forge had been a myth. A Terran failsafe built in the early Exodus era when humanity still feared extinction from within. It housed warframes operated by neural sync, illegal under Accord law, capable of turning single pilots into godlike avatars of destruction. Dr. Leora Meng stood at the control dais, eyes hollow. She glanced at Cade, who stared at the awakening titans. You realize, she said, once these walk again, there's no going back. Neither are we. She placed a hand on the sync drive. I engineered these to defend our species, not burn galaxies. Cade didn't answer right away. He watched the machinery breathe again, pistons sighing like lungs long dormant. We defend by surviving, he said. And survival demands fire. Meanwhile, aboard the flagship of the Council's Third Fleet, Admiral Kavor of the Sylvan Dominion paced his bridge. Hesitation emboldens them, he growled, voice thick with disgust. Strike Earth's orbitals. Scorch their skies. End this rebellion. But, sir, his tactician warned, several vessels from the first wave vanished. No wreckage. No distress calls. It's as if. As if what? The officer hesitated. As if they were never there. Kavor's tusked jaw tightened. They want fear. Let's give them fire. On Europa, deep beneath the ice shelf, a secret Terran science outpost went dark. The Wraith picked up the distress ping seconds before it ceased. Another site gone, Sarai said. Cade nodded slowly. It's not just war, he muttered. They're scrubbing our existence. Thorn stepped closer. We should evacuate what we can. Move to deep space. Regroup. No, Cade said. That's what they expect. We'll vanish, but not to run. He tapped the holomap. We vanished to strike. He zoomed into a sector, Delta 09. The Forgotten Fringe. Once a mining belt, now abandoned, unstable, lawless. That's where we make our stand. No, Cade said, eyes narrowing. That's where we make our message. On board the Vesper Ark, a former Terran cargo cruiser retrofitted into a stealth corvette, pilot Ren Allard guided the ship through gravitational rifts toward the fringe. You sure about this, boss? He radioed to the Wraith. This place eats signals and souls. Cade's voice crackled back. We don't need to speak. We need to be seen. Ren gave a dry chuckle. If I die doing this, tell my sister she still owes me credits. Noted. As the Vesper Ark slipped into the shadows of the fragmented asteroid field, Ren deployed its payload, satellite drones rigged with beacon arrays and ultra-frequency projectors. Within hours, they activated. And across the galaxy, every species with a receiver saw it. A message. Raw. Brutal. Human. A council dreadnought, charred and gutted, drifting across the stars, Earth's emblem burned into its hull. Then Cade's voice, calm and unshaken. You blocked our ports. We opened the dark. You silenced our colonies. We spoke in fire. This isn't rebellion. This is memory. You forgot who we are. We remember. In the central chamber of the Council Core on Varela Prime, panic fractured the air. Delegate Rinvale slammed a crystal fist into the dais. This cannot go unanswered. It already has, murmured a smaller voice, Councillor Velthix, an elder of the Threni Order. We've stirred something we do not understand. Rinvale whirled. They're primitives. Velthix shook his ancient head. No. They're survivors. And survivors make dangerous enemies. Meanwhile, back in the Sol system, aboard Obsidian Wraith, Cade sat alone in his quarters. He stared at an old photo, creased, sun-faded. His sister, Ilana. Laughing. Barefoot on the soil of New Terra, back when it still rained. Dead now. A casualty of the first blockade. He never buried her. Never even saw her body. They said the atmosphere facility failed. He knew better. He placed the photo face down. A soft knock. Sarai entered. No words, just silence shared. You okay? She asked finally. No. She nodded. Neither was. But they didn't need to be. They needed to move. At 0300 hours, the forge activated its first sync. Pilot, Commander Elias Cade. Target, Council Beacon Hub, Sector LX4. No survivors expected. No rescue inbound. He entered the exoframe cockpit, arms outstretched, neural ports hissing as they latched into his spine, skull, wrists. Pain came first. Then silence. Then unity. He opened his eyes inside the machine. And for the first time in days, he didn't feel small. He felt inevitable. In the cold vacuum between systems, 30 war frames ignited in silent orbit. No transmissions. No warnings. Just shadows. Moving. Earth was no longer asking. It was answering. They arrived like phantoms. No alarms. No radiation trails. No mass displacement. Just a sudden silence across Sector LX4, and then, gone. The Council's primary relay station, reduced to molten wreckage in 6 seconds. A clean incision through reinforced alloy, as if the universe itself had drawn a blade. The warframes didn't gloat. They didn't transmit. They vanished again before the first response wave arrived. Inside the Obsidian Wraith, Sarai Voss watched the feed loop, expression unreadable. They're calling us shadows now, she said. Whispers in their fleet logs. Officers resigning in clusters. They've stopped using Terran tech. Even sealed off the databanks where your sister worked. Kate stood behind her, arms folded, eyes locked on the playback. They're scared, he said. But scared isn't enough. Then what is? Kate didn't blink. Submission. The Galactic Council held emergency talks on the floating moon city of Orlanax, a neutral zone used only in the most desperate times. Delegates wore armor, not robes. Protocols abandoned. Translation tech delayed by fear. Admiral Kavor slammed his clawed fist into the marble table. We are losing to ghosts. Ships vanish. Stations collapse. Morale is bleeding faster than fleet fuel. And still, you debate language? Counselor Velthix raised his hand calmly. You misunderstand. This isn't just war. This is humiliation. Humans are not striking us militarily. They are dismantling our myth. Piece by piece. Delegate Cyrex hissed. Then we must shatter their legend. And make them martyrs? Velthix replied. They have no empire. No seat. No homeworld worth glassing. And yet they make us tremble. A silence settled like dust. Then a voice echoed from the shadows. They're turning pain into power. Heads turned. From a concealed portal, High Chancellor Theros of the Arcanes Union stepped forward. Long thought retired, his presence meant politics were ending. He continued, slow and cold. Humans survive by being underestimated. We welcomed them into peace. Gave them trade, code, language. But peace softened them, until it didn't. What are you proposing? Asked Kavor. A strike so total, Theros said. Their memory cannot recover. He tapped the hologlobe. Earth. Back aboard the Wraith, Dr. Leora Meng stood in front of a table covered in black shards. Data remnants of stolen council files, each glowing faintly under spectral light. These are patterns, she murmured, running fingers over the fragments. They are moving faster than even we expected. We burned 10 stations and they still grow more desperate. Cade leaned in. Because they're losing face. Their unity was a myth. Built on fear. Now they're fractured. She looked up. You know what comes next? Yes, Cade answered. Retaliation. You think they'll come for the moons? They'll come for Earth. He was right. Council war fleets began rerouting. Drones flooded into Terran border sectors. Listening buoys captured intercepted chatter, code phrases, Phoenix Protocol, absolute containment, Operation Ashfall. Within hours, Earth was encircled. Not by blockades. By executioners. Do we have time? Sarai asked quietly. Cade stared at the tactical holomap. Red dots bloomed across the system like bleeding stars. No, he said. But we have choice. They stood in the warframe hangar, titanic machines towering in silence, eyes dimmed but waiting. Cade walked to the one painted with a single, crooked line across its chest. Model, Vengeance Class. Codename Anathema. Thorn approached from behind. This is where we die, isn't it? Cade looked back. No. This is where we remind them why we lived. The Council began its assault before dawn. On Earth, the skies opened, burning meteors, not natural, but kinetic rods dropped from the stratosphere. Precision strikes. Infrastructure crippling. Not meant to flatten the planet, just paralyze it. And then the main fleet arrived. 82 warships. Orbital drones. Planetary erasers. But Earth didn't fire missiles. It unleashed monsters. The warframes dropped from orbit cloaked in re-entry silence. Their armor bled friction, not flames. They landed not like machines, but like gods, on skyscrapers, mountains, wastelands. Each one tethered to a neuropilot buried deep inside hidden bunkers. Their minds synced. Their pain aligned. And the warframes moved. Faster than the eye. Stronger than gravity. The first destroyer never got a lock. An exoframe ran through its hull and detonated its core from within. No torpedo. Just a controlled collapse. Screams erupted across alien command decks. They're inside our formations, inside our ships, inside. Silence. Counselor Rinvale watched from the command bridge of the dreadnought Judicator Prime, eyes fracturing with color. They are but insects, she whispered. Then her ship shook. And the sky opened again. Not from above. From beneath. From Earth's crust rose the obsidian wraith, buried long ago in deep earth hangars, now reborn through molten launch bays. Cade's voice rang across council frequencies. No encryption. No demands. Just a whisper. Now, you listen. The wraith surged upward, spearing through 2 cruisers before launching its payload, EMP lances that shattered command AI cores and froze targeting systems. The warframes did the rest. They tore ships apart. They disabled engines mid-flight and let gravity finish the work. They wrote their message in debris. Not domination. Defiance. Inside his cockpit, Cade felt every breath of the machine. Every wound taken echoed through his nerves. A blast to his warframe's shoulder sent hot pain down his spine. He grunted. But he didn't stop. He hurled his arm blade through a gunship and dove after it, cutting through wreckage and fear. Above Earth, the once mighty Council fleet fractured. Some fled. Others fought in vain. A few, suicidally proud, stayed until nothing remained. When the dust settled, 33 warships drifted silent. And Earth still stood. Back on the Wraith, Thorn limped into the med bay, blood on his sleeve. We held, he said. Cade didn't look up. He stared out the viewport at the field of broken metal and fading lights. No, he said. We warned them. And far beyond, in the deep halls of the Council's inner sanctum, a new fear had taken root. The fear that humans no longer wanted peace. The fear that they had remembered something older. Something dangerous. Something no one in the galaxy could unlearn. Ash still floated in Earth's upper atmosphere, soft and glittering like snowfall, except it wasn't snow. It was what remained of the most powerful fleet the galaxy had ever assembled. Commander Elias Cade stood in silence at the edge of the Obsidian Wraith's observation deck, watching the debris field drift above the blue curve of Earth. Burnt hull fragments, shattered engines, broken insignias, all suspended in a slow, orbital funeral. He didn't feel triumph. He felt something quieter. Heavier. Sarai entered behind him. Her limp was worse now. Shrapnel from the last impact had clipped her thigh. But her voice was calm. We're picking up a new signal. Not Council code. Civilian band. Cade turned. Show me. She tapped a console. A hologram blinked to life, an old signal type, rarely used since the early Exodus era. Analog by nature. Simple. Human. A boy's voice. Crackling. If anyone hears this, we're alive. New Geneva sector. Power's down, but we held. We're still here. Another voice in the background, a woman, laughing, crying all at once. Cade closed his eyes for a moment. They tried to silence us, he said, more to himself than to her. But this is what survives. Sarai exhaled, slow. They won't stop, you know. Even after this. Pride never dies easy. No, Cade agreed. But fear lasts longer. On Varela Prime, deep inside the Council Chamber's fractured dome, Chancellor Theros faced his delegates in silence. None of them sat. The seats were gone, shattered in the chaos when the vote failed to pass. The Council hadn't collapsed by force. It had withered in fear. Rinvale stood closest to him, her crystalline skin dimmed to a dull gray. They should not have won, she muttered. They didn't, Theros replied. They endured. Cyrex's metallic form slithered into view. We were the stars. They were shadows. Now we huddle while they burn cities into legend. Theros didn't respond. He watched the projection loop, the Terran warframes rising, not to conquer, but to shield. The Wraith targeting only armed vessels. No civilian damage. No invasion. They were never trying to win a war, he said finally. They were proving they didn't need us anymore. 3 days later, A message was received by every known civilization. Not through council channels. Through the Universal Emergency Relay System, an open, untraceable feed. It was Cade. Standing atop the ruins of what had once been the UN Tower in Old Geneva, rebuilt into a new, simple structure. One flag fluttered in the wind behind him. Earth's emblem. Scorched. Stitched back together. He didn't raise his voice. "We are not your subjects. We are not your clients. We are not broken. You exiled us and called it justice. You burned us and called it order. We remembered. And now, so will you. We will not return to your council. But we will not vanish again. We are not asking for peace. We are offering it, on our terms. And if you refuse..." He stepped aside. Behind him, the camera panned up. One of the warframes stood tall, painted in white now, not black. Flowers laid at its feet by children. A monument. Not a weapon. "You'll see what happens when Earth stops whispering." In the far spiral arm of the galaxy, inside a hidden Threni monastery, an old monk whispered to a young acolyte as they watched the transmission replay. "They were once considered the weakest," he said softly. The child tilted her head. "What changed?" The monk smiled faintly. "They remembered what it meant to be alone." Back on Earth, the Obsidian Wraith landed for the first time since the war began. Not to fight, but to rest. Elias Cade stepped out, not in armor or command stripes, but in simple cloth, civilian again. The people didn't cheer. They watched. Silent. Reverent. He walked past them, through streets still cracked with impact scars, past homes with solar blankets nailed to windows, through fields where satellite wreckage had been turned into garden beds. Humanity didn't rebuild with blueprints. It rebuilt with memory. He entered the old temple ruins near the coast where Ilana's name was etched in stone alongside thousands of others. No speeches. Just his hand resting on the worn engraving. "I kept the fire," he said softly. "But it cost us." A voice behind him broke the quiet. "You never promised to win." It was Sarai. Limp gone now. Just a cane. She joined him. "You promised to be the last man standing if no one else would." He nodded. They stood like that for a while. Just two soldiers. Two ghosts of a war no one would admit had ended. In orbit, across the void, Terran's satellites realigned, not to monitor, but to guide. Human colonies reconnected. Signals returned. Songs played again between planets. No council stood over them. No empire waited. But across the stars, when someone whispered, "What happens if you corner a human?" the answer was legend. Final image. A child on Mars stands under a red sky, looking up at the remains of a broken council cruiser now serving as the foundation for a school. She holds a history book. Its title? "The Day We Spoke in Fire." And behind her, the warframe. Still standing. Still watching. But quiet. At last.